Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, and all of the participants, first I want to thank you all for your commitment to be here and your involvement in this journey that started 2 months ago in several online sessions, and now we are here with 6 very impactful and amazing proposals that will be delivered all across the world. And you made the impact for that. This forum has been much more than several presentations, discussions, work sessions. It has been much more than that. It's a hub for innovation. It's a space for you, for youth, to share and to lead the changes that needs to be done to have a more sustainable world and a more sustainable, specifically in the energy sector. You have several backgrounds, and that is one of the amazing things that this platform has. We don't want only engineers to work. We don't want only policymakers. We need all of you to make this work. And this structure that the amazing team of EIA built for you, but without you, this wouldn't be possible. This position paper will be shared at COP. So this year you had much more pressure to deliver a great job. So this won't have only impact in Europe, because your ideas can be applied to other continents, to other situations, and you will be the reason for that. Your names will be there. So I think this year we achieve a greater thing comparing with the other position papers that we had. You had more pressure, Ian had more pressure, and of course the amazing team had more pressure, but it's rewarding at the same time. In just a few minutes, we are going to hear the proposals that you delivered, and these presentations are a culmination of the hard work, as I mentioned earlier. But also, it's your chance to shine and to share with the room and with our panelists and that we had in these final days. Your impact, your motivation, why they need to give floor, why the companies need to give floor to you, just to show that you also can deliver amazing proposals if they give you the time. You only had 3 months to deliver these 6 amazing proposals. Imagine that if you work and they give you the floor to be integrated in their companies, what you could do about it. How could you integrate these proposals in their companies, in their cities? So yes, AN will do our part, going to COP, share internal, share with the partners, share with several members, but you also need to share in your communities, in your networks, and in AF if you want to, you can join us, of course, we hope so. But of course, AF team was the backbone of all of this, and I have to acknowledge all of them and thank you, all of you, for being present and be very active to deliver this. Lastly, our amazing partners and sponsors that were the main reason that we could do this. Yes, online session, it was easier to do as online session, but we believed that being here, it's much more impactful. And they were the reasons for that. They were the main reason for all of you can be there, here. This is a synergy, but I believe that all of us gain with this. So let's do the final presentation and let's go show why you what your work was and your impact was in this proposal. So the floor is yours. And I want to call Mateo to
Okay, I'm just giving a couple of information about the presentations. We will ask to the team that is presenting to come down here and sit on the first row, okay? The speakers will come here and they will have 10 minutes of time to present. After the 10 minutes of presentation, we will leave a bit of time for question, so feel free to ask whatever you would like. And yes, during the Q&A, we ask the whole team to come here, get the compliments, of course, and then answer the question, okay? Each one of the team can answer the question, not only the speakers, okay? During the presentation, our wonderful Belen will show the time on the paper, so make sure to not go over the 10 minutes, okay? Thank you very much. You can use these microphones if you want. Sorry? You can also use this if you want, as a microphone. No. It's, okay, you know how to do it. Okay, I will call group 1 here.
Good morning, everybody. We're super excited to kick it off here as Group 1. With my amazing team, we've been working over the last 3 months, as you all know, on this proposal. So let's dive into it. Well, this is the team. You all know them after these 3 wonderful days. Really hardworking people. And what actually have we been doing? Our challenge is defined as improving community engagement and interdisciplinary collaboration at the city level for sustainable energy transitions. And just to refresh your minds, why is community engagement important again? Of course, it leads to more equitable and sustainable decision-making processes and improves the livelihood of our communities. But also, the energy transition works 2 ways. So without those citizens being engaged, not much is going to happen. We conducted interviews with different levels within the community engagement realm and found out the several issues right now in the current structure. That is that there's a lack of a designated contact point and also institutional support. Time and money, classics. Our vision is actually that we have active engagement for all citizens present with and around a city, and that these community members are also actively aware to be more sustainable and act on it as well. So these are our visions, and that's the bridge we want to gap. So the specific needs for this, of course, awareness creation on the energy transition, how to save energy, but also costs, and promote the energy efficiency and improve standard of living, and also improve the representation. And we want to do this in small-sized cities. So who's going to do it? Who's this person? It's our community energy ambassador. This task exists out of 2 different things that saw before. It's a paid position, which is essential for them to be motivated and work hard. And also, it's a trusted community member that goes around your local supermarket. You can just talk to him. You know or her, this person. So yeah, that's a bit about the community energy ambassador. And then what responsibilities does this person have? A lot. They're going to engage and also represent. So engaging means, as I mentioned, the supermarket, building the trust, intensifying their outreach, connecting. But also they're going to take this input and represent you to feedback makers, policy makers, and identify further interdisciplinary collaborations that can be done. We received a lot of questions about how big the scope is. So we made a nice plot, which is the city, and then the ambassador having like a small neighborhood under him or her. I should really work on that.
Thank you, Mayem. So, in order to enable our ambassador to actually carry out all these beautiful responsibilities, we imagine a framework where our ambassador will be implemented. And we are implementing our ambassador in the already existing framework and structure of the Covenant of Mayors. So specifically, we're going to develop a new body. We're going to create a new body within the already existent governance structure of the Covenant of Mayors with a new office specifically focused on the development and support of the program. You have to see this new office as the main coordinator of the program because it will have interaction with every actor of the program, communities, the ambassador, the actual ambassador, and then the municipalities. Okay. So, no, it's okay. Okay. I think the presentation, okay. I know the structure is a little bit confusing, but it's very important for us in order to make this proposal effective, so stay with me now. At the beginning, the new body, the new community, the new Covenant of Mayors body will do an external mapping of cities, of communities that need that have specific and the highest actually energy issues. So let's talk about maybe energy poverty or energy efficiency. And this will be done with data provided by specific agencies like the European Union Energy Poverty Observatory. Then the new body will actually define what the ambassador, what the ideal ambassador is going to look like. So helping the selection program. This ideal ambassador will have a specific focus on the community, so a citizen of the community, and then on the other side we also expect the ambassador to be to have a technical expertise, so think about maybe a background in engineering and in sustainability. And then the most important part will be the fact that our body, the new Covenant of Mayors body, will carry out the training for the selected candidates. And finally, the Covenant of Mayors new body will give overall and constant support to the municipalities that will actually carry out the program. For the selection process, so the selection will be carried out by the municipalities following guidelines provided by the European level, and most importantly, at the European level, we're gonna find the financial support. Then, on the bottom line, Maya was talking about responsibilities, the engagement and the representation part. So we see the engagement between communities and the ambassador active on both sides. So we expect the ambassador to go speak with citizens, with the community, in order to maybe raise awareness and the education on specific issues, energy-related issues. But on the other side, we expect citizens to actually go after the ambassador and bring him and tell him actually their specific concerns, issues, maybe how to develop, how to raise their energy efficiency of their household. And with this information, the ambassador will then gather concerns, issues, and represent them, bring them to the decision makers. So the municipality is the one that actually define the energy policies for the specific city, in order to define policies that will actually align with the specific need of their territory. So the very early stages of our program will be developed through a pilot program. So after defining the very early stages of the design of the program, the establishment of the body and the training, we will do the body will do a specific mapping of 5 areas where our ambassador will be needed, our program will be needed. So areas, cities, communities with specific energy problems, and then cities that actually face barriers to maybe implementation of solution for energy efficiency, or even engagement in the decision-making process. And within these cities, there is going to be find and define the very first ambassador. So 5 ambassadors that will become the very first ambassadors of our program. So in order to track the impact of our program, we developed 4 KPIs, 4 metrics: community engagement, so through measuring how many citizens actively took part in the program, bringing their needs and their concern to the ambassador. And then bottom-up effectiveness. This metric is very important in order to understand how effective our proposal is for the actual decision-making process. So we're going to measure that by measuring how many urban planning are going to be carried out by the municipality with the actual participation of our ambassador. Then implementation of progress, we're going to measure the decrease of expenses for the community, and finally trust and transparency from the community. So we're going to carry out surveys every year to gather recommendation, criticism from citizens that took part in the program, and see actually how effective our proposal is. So this was briefly our proposal. We expect a lot of questions and criticism, and yeah, that was it.
So if there is any... Ooh, there are no questions. Noemi has one.
Hey, thank you for the presentation. Is it on? Oh yeah, I have to put it close to my mouth, I guess. I had a question. So the community energy ambassador, you imagine this person to have a technical background. Is that what I understood correctly? Okay, so this person is engaging with local habitants, right? Like with local people. Is that correct? Yeah. Has to be another? No?
Okay, so thank you for your question, of course.
I actually didn't ask the question, though.
No, it's all right. So generally, what is important to know, and this was also thought through, but yeah, limited time, is that we are aware that you are not able to find the perfect person who knows both the technical aspects, or at least the benefits of a certain technology or a certain policy, and somebody who is already engaged enough. So that person needs to be known by the community, so there's already some trust, but also be perfect if she or he has some knowledge. And therefore the training comes in. So basically there is something like a dual selection process. Dual selection process is the fact that you have two criteria. One is how deeply involved you are in the community, and the other is, let's say, what's your CV, so to speak, yeah? What's your background? And then that helps in selecting the right person. And then, but after selection of the right person, it's of course he's not fully prepared to become ambassador yet, therefore the training comes in. And then the final product, so to speak, is fully trained ambassador.
So to clarify, you could, for instance, see a social worker in this role?
Yes, for example, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Another question?
Thanks. So my question is that how does an average day of the ambassador looks like? Does he go to the office? Does he have an office, or he's on the road?
Well, definitely a lot of different tasks, but for instance, organizing workshops, going to local communities, NGOs, etc., trying to reach as many people as possible. So also going to a grocery shop and just be present so that people in the cities are actually aware that the ambassador is there to help them. And the ambassador is also going to gather data in order to improve. So data on energy efficiency in the community, data on like how many new solar panels are implemented after he helped applying for subsidies for the those solar panels. So it's a bit of like different task. I think he's going to be quite busy, to be honest. But he has an office, yeah. And he will also go, will also go to the Covenants of Mayors. So you heard this European body that we're going to implement within the Covenants of Mayors. Well, within that body, he is also going to go in order to brainstorm with the other ambassadors in order to improve the program. Okay? Is there any other question?
Yes, we still have.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the training because it was mentioned. How do you envision that? Do you envision that doing it yourself? Is that something that is provided by the body, or is that done, for example, in partnerships? Because I think there are some programs that you can tap into and leverage. So how do you, like, what's your vision on that?
Thanks for the question. So it's actually, so within the Covenant of Mayors, there's a body that is created, and at the beginning of the financial plan, there's in the very first years, there's some budget that is included to actually either work on that training program within that body or externalize that to, for example, a consulting company that can create a tailor-made program. And then within the following years, the idea is also to implement the feedback from the pilot, five pilot ambassadors, and they include like some sort of like mentoring or like a share of lessons learned to the following generations.
Thanks for the question. Just a reminder, even if it passes the 5 minutes, you will still have time afterwards to connect with the other participants and make directly questions.
Okay, I can call group number 2 here. I just have to ask the speakers to always speak in the microphone, mainly for the streaming, okay? Thank you. Alberto, you are the best.
I don't need to use this, right? I can just...
Yes, if you want.
Okay, we good? Yeah? Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Retro Response Residential Revolution, which we think will widen residential participation in the energy transition by making demand response and retrofitting more accessible. But first, our lovely Group 2 team. It's been awesome working with everyone. I just want to shout out to Matteo, our awesome lead, for all his support. And yes, the young Brit holding the EU flag is my political statement for this week. So, what is the challenge we're solving? Europe's households are locked out of the energy transition. So the residential sector accounts for about a quarter of Europe's carbon emissions, but Europe's houses are ill-prepared for this transition. They are leaky, they are old, they're heated with gas, they need to be renovated, and existing energy inefficiencies are also exacerbated by the current nascency of flexible energy usage. So what do we need? We need homes to be future-proofed for a low-carbon system, and this is increasingly important in Europe, in a Europe that has more and more renewable electricity. This is not the energy system that we know today, and a low-carbon grid is going to be placing more strain on the network that requires more flexibility from everyone who participates in it. So making homes fit for the energy transition can help alleviate these problems, but the big issue is that these solutions that help kind of enable flexibility are inaccessible to most households. And this lack of accessibility takes many forms. So maybe they're priced out. Maybe there's a lack of understanding and education around like what is needed from them for the transition. They don't feel engaged. And for renters, there's a lack of agency to improve their home. And that's an issue that, of course, disenfranchises too many young people as well. So the lack of access to future-proofing limits the pace of residential energy demand and emissions reductions, and that is really the objective underlying our proposal, and that is to unlock Europe's households as active participants in the energy transition and really empower them to be involved. So doing this will involve both demand response and retrofitting, which I already mentioned. I'll briefly go through both of these and the current state. So demand response schemes, for those who don't know, they reward consumers for being flexible with their demand to help the energy system function properly. And residential demand response maturity really varies by European countries. So some, like the UK, if I live in the UK, I can access many different residential demand response schemes, but in most European countries, we heard about this the other day for Hungary, there's basically nothing available. So there's no uniformity across Europe. And then we have retrofitting, so you can increase energy efficiency by kind of changing the fabric of your home. And this lowers bills and can improve your comfort, but the upfront costs are eye-wateringly high, and subsidy schemes are very inconsistent across countries. So Italy has a very strong subsidy scheme, but the UK, again, had good demand response, but terrible retrofitting. And that highlights the biggest gap, which is that policymakers are treating these as two separate things, and they are not two separate things. They are interlinked. Retrofitting homes makes them more capable of providing better flexibility potential, and likewise, participating in demand response makes you more efficient with your energy consumption and kind of helps make retrofitting a more attractive prospect in the first place. So to truly future-proof Europe's homes at the scale and pace required for net zero, you need to have an integrated approach that really interlinks both of these elements. And the core belief underpinning our proposal is that reducing household consumptions and emissions requires engaging and energizing the public and empowering them to participate. So with that in mind, I'll hand over to Theodora to take you through our revolution.
Thank you, Callum. All right, indeed, our retro response residential revolution. So we have the following elements in this proposal. We have a DR mandate, energy flexibility certificates, minimum build flex standards, and retrofitting financing schemes. Now I'm going to take you through how all these elements are connected and how they interlink and strengthen each other. So starting off with the DR mandate, we want to extend access to residential DR schemes by mandating large energy suppliers to offer them. Now, why do we want to do that? So we want to oblige energy companies to actually offer these DR schemes because currently, as we've also heard earlier this week, they don't really care. They can just put the extra costs on the consumers. We don't want them to do that. We want to ensure that households can benefit enough from the demand response. Now, DR is quite a broad term. There's a lot of different ways you can approach it, and these different ways can also have different levels of technological requirements. So here we have a couple of examples. I won't go into them too deeply because I want to go on to the rest of our proposal, but you would like to have a variety of possibilities and that they would be fit to the country you're in. If the country has a high uptake of smart meters, for example, you can go more towards the more technological ones. Now, we have incentivized flex behavior due to our DR mandates, but we also want to make it more attractive. And how do we do that? We do that by implementing energy flexibility certificates. So we want to make these energy and flexibility certificates are very similar to the concept that we already have, which are the efficiency certificates, such as you have these, for appliances, but you also have these for homes. So you have a certain rating for the efficiency in your home. And you have a current rating, you have a potential rating, so not all homes can become the highest level. And we want to do the same, we want to apply the same concept to flexibility, since that's going to be such an important thing for the future energy network and also just for residents to benefit the most and understand their energy use. Right, yeah, so having this certificate will, on the one hand, provide information to the residents on their current state and potential, but it will also support DSOs with information. Right, so now in order to actually future-proof this concept of energy flexibility certificates and make sure that it's not just a piece of paper, we want to also add minimum building flexibility standards. Again, it's very similar to the concept we already have. You have certain sufficiency standards, especially if you look like a new build, so in the year 20 whatever, there will be a certain standard for efficiency. We want to do that for flexibility. Flexibility is essential, it needs to be integrated as well. We will also do this for landlords. So that for well, it depends on the country, of course, but you'll say after this year, there will be this expectation, this level of flexibility if you want to rent out your home. This means they will need to retrofit. So how do we make sure that retrofitting is accelerated? We want to have a retrofitting financing scheme. Why do we do this? So there is subsidies, they vary across country, and currently they're insufficient. Additionally, the enabling loans are not available to all. So we want to propose low to zero interest loans, and this can take several forms. This can be either done by public-private partnerships or it can be government-backed. So in this way, we can actually drive mass retrofits through this third-party finance mechanism. And this gives us the full picture, and you can see how they all connect and strengthen each other. And this is our Retro Response Residential Revolution. Oh, no, yes, this is you. And now Cal will hit you.
Yes, so we thought we'd make this more tangible to finish it up by taking you through a user journey. So we have our renter, who is Matteo, and we're going to see how all of these different elements interlink. So with the DR mandate, Matteo can now participate in a behavioral or some kind of demand response scheme. It saves him money. It's very exciting for him. But he's still kind of like, I don't know how much flexibility I can provide. How can I maximize what I'm earning? Then he learns he can get an EFC, an energy flexibility certificate. So he gets that. And he learns that, oh, okay, I can save 300 euros if I install a heat pump and also provide an extra X kilowatt hours of flexibility at the same time. And that's how I earn even more money through being flexible. And then he's not sure if his landlord will commit to putting the heat pump in. But then he sees that there's new minimum standards that require the landlord to put the heat pump in to get it to, say, an energy flexibility rating of C. So now the landlord has to do it. But then the landlord's a bit worried because they think, oh, maybe I can't afford the upfront cost. But then the landlord finds out that there's this low to zero interest loan that they can use to finance it. And then at the end of the day, the heat pump is in, Matteo is absolutely bawling. Look at him, he's absolutely delighted. And he's a fully empowered part of the energy transition. So that is how we anticipate the revolution to work. It will synchronize these two pillars that need to be together, engage a greater number of homes and residents, and ultimately empower them and everyone in this room to be an active participant in the transition. Thank you.
So if you have a question, I think he...
Okay.
Hi. Can you hear me? Hola. Oh, yes. Hi. Amazing. This is like music to my ears as an energy nerd. But I do have a question regarding the renters. So these incentives, I understand, are aimed at landlords because they're the ones who, in the end, have like the power of decision on doing this. Have you thought of a way of making also, or empowering renters also, so that there can be like some kind of pressure also coming from their side for this to actually commence? Thank you.
What part of the program are you? Oh.
I mean, both, right? Because you're putting them together.
Yeah. So the overall aim basically is to make the energy transition beneficial to consumers, and this in great part is indirect, because if it's mandated, it means that renters can choose a contract which includes flexible tariffs, for example, as one of the solutions that we mentioned. So a lot of these benefits are probably indirect, because these minimum standards and the certificates also improves information.
I have something quickly to... Oh, no,
I can add on. To add on that, we also, I think the flexibility certificates are a big part of it. It's making it transparent. At the moment, as a renter, you don't know what, like if I am looking for a new apartment, I don't know what can that apartment do. We're making it transparent, and I think that's really empowering the people. That's the main part there.
That was what I was going to say.
We have another question as well.
Thank you for the great presentation. So my question was, when you retrofit a house, you would certainly reduce the peak load. And after that peak load reduction, having demand response, the utility of that demand response flexibility and benefits reduces. Don't you see these two acting in counteraction? Having just demand response, okay, but having both of them together?
I mean, it depends. If the retrofitting includes electrification, like heat pump, as it was in the example, of course it actually it increases the load and also the potential for flexibility. So yeah, if it's an insulation, you will decrease your load, and in that regards, not even that case. I think if you improve insulation, you can play more with when you are actually heating your home. So I think it varies by case.
Thank you. We have an...
So, if I got it correctly, the great beneficiary of this system is the grid operator in the DSO, right? So he solves this problem because he has a flexibility service kind of for free, but it seems that it's the taxpayer that is putting the money, once again, to solve the problem. So, my question is more towards back of the envelope financial. Did you calculate the payback time of the system? What is exactly the money flow on this operation, if you can comment on that?
We have the quant here.
So I think that I would push back on the assertion that it is the DSO and the grid operator that is the primary beneficiary. They certainly benefit from having increased grid stability. It's also not the taxpayer financing it, because explicitly this is a loan which is government backed and refinanced. The magnitude of expenditure would vary based on the requirements. So the magnitude of the loan which you would be able to access would be tied to the required upgrades to upgrade your energy flexibility certificates to the minimum standards enshrined in step 3. And then repayment schedules would also vary based on that. I think if you're thinking about solar, you're probably in line with current repayment standards, which are 3 to 4 years in Southern Europe and 5 to 7 in the places where the sun don't shine.
Thanks.
I
We
want to add one more thing. So solving an issue for the DSO is not separate from the end consumer. It has such a large effect on like the residents if you have huge issues. If you need to build a much stronger energy network, that is very expensive, and that puts a lot of pressure on the end consumer as well. So it's not like a opposing thing. It's also good that it benefits the DSO.
Thanks for the answers. I see that there's still a lot of questions, but maybe you can talk with the participants.
We're happy to discuss later.
Okay, group 3 on the stage.
When I feel like I did like so I think it's just
Good luck, Emma, you've got this. You've got this.
Here, we're gonna have a co-presenter.
Oh,
We're gonna have both.
so cute.
there you go.
Sorry? Nothing. Okay, hi everyone. I think we shall start. So we are happy to present you today our part of fixing the world. And we want to do it through a Green Commute initiative. So what do I have today? I think by now you should all know what the number 75 stands for, considering sustainable cities. So what do you think? Population in? Yes. So 75% of the European citizens actually live in cities. So that's a lot of people on a small amount of this space, and in the future it only will increase. So how many of these people, like in a percentage, how many of you of them do you think are commuting with public transport? 15, more or less. 50? Not like, it's even worse, it's 10% in Europe. The majority is transporting, wait, what do you think? Cars. So, what do we want to, like obviously, you all know cars pollute, they emit greenhouse gases, which leads to global warming, but also pollutes our air, which leads to health concerns and a lot of congestion, but also they take a lot of space in urban areas. So obviously we want to get rid of the private owned cars. Like not all of them, but a bit. So in order to do that, we want more soft mobility and we want more public transport. And it's like, it is a behavioral change. So obviously the infrastructure for the soft mobility should be there, but also the transport, the public transport needs to be reliable, comfortable, on time, fast, all of this. So, how do we get it? Basically, we target the commuters. So we want to have this behavioral change and we want to incentivize people to use soft mobility, to use public transport, and not by penalizing them by having a company car, you know? So we want to really approach this by supporting, by being supportive, by promoting sustainable transport. So we created this scheme for employers, which they can present to their employees as a benefit. So basically, the employer can choose which option or options they offer to the employee, on which the employee can choose which fits best, you know? Because obviously, we're all different, we all have different, I don't know, like no size fits all, you know? In order to make it attractive for businesses, we thought of a tax credit. So basically, the benefit for the business is money, of course, and you get a tax credit from like 50 till 70% regarding on the size of the company. I'll go like real quick through them all. So we have public transport passes. You know what I mean? We can also like get e-bikes or scooters. We can, like the company can buy or lease a shared e-bus. They can do cycle reimbursements, or you could, as an employee, lease a bike. Or you could have a budget that you can spend on your rent. And we want to promote, for that, like we want to promote moving people closer to their work or do more teleworking. I'll pass to Alba.
Perfect, thank you, Emma. So now we're going to be talking about who are the stakeholders involved in this initiative. They are the ones listed on the screen. I will go in order, and I will start with who is our primary target. So essentially, our primary target is going to be the government. When we talk about government, we will start locally to be able to then leverage that local interaction to escalate the issue at a national level. Why are governments interested in this? I mean, Emma already stated some of the facts, but obviously GHG emission reduction, pollution reduction, etc. This will also help them to achieve their sustainability goals. Moving on to our secondary target, businesses. We were talking about working with employers and employees, and we're going to be actively helping businesses to be able to attract talent and retain talent as well by giving them these incentives. And then it's us, it's the people here, and we want to really benefit the end user by providing them an option to be able to commute in a more sustainable and reliable way. So what are our objectives? We have been talking about reduction of GHG emissions, so that is one of our primary focuses here. We're going to be tracking that using transportation data. Then we move to the next one. It's going to be air quality enhancement. We know how bad it is to live in a polluted city, so we want to provide citizens a safe environment where they can thrive and live. And then the last one is also reclaiming urban spaces. So we want to be able to track on a quantitative and also qualitative way how we are reducing the use of private vehicles and incentivizing the use of public transportation, other soft mobility alternatives. How are we going to implement this? So right now we're really going to focus on the pilot implementation. The first step is actually just going to be identifying those pilots and those local governments that we want to start working with. And as I mentioned, we will then escalate it to the national level since we have a scheme that also includes tax credits. So that is why we need the national government to be involved there as well. Then we will continue with education and raising awareness. So we're going to be working with the public sector and also businesses as well, because we're going to be doing this through workshops and just actively engaging employers and employees. After that, we're going to monitor all of this and adapt. We all know that we can't improve what we can't measure, so monitoring is a big part of this scheme as well. And then last but not least, let's expand this. So we're going to be expanding on a very staggered manner, so we're able to implement best practices, and through this we're going to be able to create a playbook that then we can just go and replicate in other areas as well. And then what do we need to make this happen? So we've summarized this in 3 main boxes. The first one is going to be financial resources. So implementation of this is going to be expensive, so we're going to need capital in order to be able to do so. And then we're also going to be investing in workforce development. This is also going to be key for governments and businesses as well, because we're going to be able to promote green jobs as well. Then technical assistance, all of this requires a lot of qualified workers as well, so we're going to be able to count with the support of accountants, and then for the monitoring as well, we will need technical assistance. And then last but not least, we were talking about education and expansion about these concepts, and that's what we're going to be doing through marketing and communication. And well, just to close this, thank you all for your attention. Thank you for our amazing team as well.
So let's open. First, we have your question. I don't know if
Thank you for the presentation. It seems that your offer for the solution for transportation is focused on the cars offered by employers. It would be nice to know the metric in terms of what percentage of total cars in a country are offered by employers, and what countries are the most feasible countries to implement it. Not all countries offer, all companies in all countries offer cars. Thank you.
So basically, we started this idea because in Belgium there's a huge problem of company cars, and also in the Netherlands. So we know not every country to do this as a benefit, but for example, Belgium and the Netherlands, a huge amount are company cars, and there are no not a lot of alternatives.
Okay, we'll pass to another question.
Thank you for the work. It's clearly a huge amount of work, and I did like the fact that a group could think this much in a small amount of time. But I'm going to have some remarks, or if you have answers for them, you can answer. First, when I was hearing the presentation, you gave some numbers and you said only 10% of people are using their public transport. So I said, okay, they are wanting to change the behavior of the other 90%. Okay. But then I was thinking, you are giving incentives for these people who have cars to go public transport. But those people who buy cars and pay for the cars, do you think they need the money to go to do anything? Is that important for them to get money to change their behavior? So the question is, when you have a behavioral question, you should really know the reasons behind that behavior. And is your solution going to change the behavior? So far it was that what I thought. Then you did go and say, no, we are more about the cars owned by the firms and companies, and we want to change that. But again, I think the previous question, Asfan, I think, it was a great question. What are the metrics? So we are not even anymore in these 90%. We are probably in 1%, 2%. And you are doing a proposal to change the behavior of 1%, 2%. And if you can really make it to these 2%, if you can convince them. When he asked you said, we have Belgium, it's a huge problem. Huge is not a number. Which is huge for me, maybe for you it's maybe nothing for me. Then I will...
We'll start with these ones, I think it's already a lot.
Okay, then we can finish the discussion outside.
So I believe the statistic that we said was currently in Europe, it's 10% of people who commute by public transport, and it's 50% of people who commute by car. So we are focusing on people who commute by car, and the idea, of course, as we said, it's a behavioral change. And so the idea really is that we want people to think, okay, shall I commute to work by car, or shall I commute to work by public transport? And really, it would be so silly to commute to work by car, because we want them to think that public transport is so convenient, and you're really silly to think that you'd commute by car. And to achieve this, we really want to get that reliance on public transport, so people will start to build reliance on public transport because they'll have public transport passes. And of course, you commute either by walking to public transport, or you can lease a bike. That soft mobility really complements public transport as well. It'll be
also
once we have that reliance on public transports, a lot more people, there'll be increased ridership, a lot more investment goes into public transport to make it even better. We expand public transport, there's less cars on the road, less congestion, so we can reclaim those urban spaces for developing public transport.
Yeah, I got the point, but just because I think this work is great, but if I do that, then I will arrive to work probably sweating or tired. Will I really work? And that's another cost for the company if I'm paying him a salary and not working 100%. So probably you should give incentives to the companies just to change their cars to electric.
Yeah, like here we're speaking about how to make the cities more sustainable, and electric cars are for sure a better option than ICE, but it's not the solution. Like the solution is that, like we heard it in the presentations this week, there's just way too much congestion. We have billions of people who are going to be living in cities by 2030, like additional people. We're gonna have to find a way to make those cities livable. And I think the first point you said for me was interesting, is that this is like people who can afford to buy cars are rich, and they wouldn't care about an incentive. But again, I think we have credits, we have an idea about how many people live off credit, like cars in the US, and it's also a big share in Europe. People don't buy cars only because they afford them, because it's the social norm, because it's convenient, and people love off credit. Like not a lot of people own cars just because they pay them cash. Like people take credits for that. So here what we want to achieve is how to make those cities more sustainable, and the only way is to reduce the traffic within those cities. Like even if we moved everyone to electric cars, can you imagine how the city would be? It's the same way. Everyone would get to work, not sweating, but very furious because they had spent like 1 hour 30 trying to get to an actual office. And the example from Belgium is like, so what we were showing is like 6 solutions. And the idea is that not all companies are going to be like, or employers in general are going to be implementing all of them. It's going to depend on the context of a particular country, of a particular employer. In the sense of Belgium and the Netherlands, it is very common historically to provide like that benefit for like company cars, but it's not the same in the rest of Europe. But that does not change the fact that even in the rest of Europe, we have more and more people commuting to work by car. So we also want to focus on those people in the countries where the incentive, the like company cars exists, and also in the other countries where people come by car to the office because it's the social norm. Everyone has a car. Like at some point, like you graduate, you buy a house, you get married, you get a child, and you get a car. So here we just want to really challenge those norms, and by like I don't know, like we're bursting the bubble of this is what progress is, and so this is where the proposal is coming from.
One really quick remark about the sweaty part. You could ask a company to install a shower, like many companies already did that. So you can, first of all, have the active transport, and you could shower. So that's also a solution, I think.
We have here one more question.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be super quick. You had those 6 options. I love the optionality. Are there any that you think would be more impactful, or any that you think will be more popular?
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends, right, on the city, like how the city's structured. Like if you're in a city that has very poor bike lanes, perhaps an employer might not want to incentivize something that's not safe. On the contrary, if you have a city that's putting a lot of investment into public bike sharing systems or bike lanes, bike infrastructure, maybe that's a very good option. Or if you live in a hotter country, maybe e-scooters are a better option because you're not sweating as much, something like that. And it's also, I think it's also up to you. It's up to you. Maybe you're someone who actually like really likes cycling, or you want that reimbursement for the kilometers traveled. So it really depends on the geographic scope as well as just personal preference, which is why we offered the different solutions.
Thanks so much for the question. We continue to the next group. Good presentation, but actually I see a comment that could be better. Like we have a good example, like for example in Belgium, something like that. Because I think this, you imagine if you are going to talk or something, it will be something also for other nations. It's easy, like showing like this input, like in boost or not. There is something like this in some country in Europe. Because it's not totally. I don't know what they are doing. I understand the emotional goodbyes, but we need to advance with the presentations of the next groups.
Yeah, okay. We'll start our presentation. Sorry for what's going on down there. Okay, so welcome to our Group 4 presentation about the framework for university-powered energy communities aiming at reducing energy poverty, also short for UPEC, which you'll be hearing a lot today. So this is our amazing team. We have Spy, who will also be presenting today, Tarje, Matteo, Tamara, Jenny, Daniel, also mentored by Marcio, and me, Lois. So to dive into a little bit of what energy actually is. So basically 41 million people are currently in Europe affected by energy poverty. There's a lot of definitions to be given to energy poverty, but we have narrowed it down a little bit to when a household must reduce its energy consumption to a degree that negatively impacts the inhabitants' health and well-being. I don't know what happened to the color, but I hope you can see. So, challenge background. Energy poverty is a very multifaceted problem. It affects a lot of facets, such as health, overall quality of life, and it is also important to view it as a very social problem, not only economic, not only technical. There's limited data availability, so that makes it hard to aim for targeted interventions to solve this problem, and also to compare countries on how energy poverty is developing. There have been 4 key areas identified, which are climate, housing, mobility, and socioeconomic facets. Current limitations on the topic are, sorry, I cannot really read. It's a very systemic of nature, so as I said, it has a lot of overlapping with a lot of themes. There's limited accessibility for certain groups, and that also makes it hard for groups to participate in energy poverty policies and interventions. So with our UPEC framework, we want to, first of all, reduce energy poverty. We want to help the targeted group to improve energy performance, support and expand local renewable energy initiatives, support households in reducing energy poverty. So the target group that we are actually aiming at is households experiencing energy poverty in urban areas. And to name a few of the needs is access to renewable energy services, also offer them a support system, and also possibly help them in social, technical, and financial needs.
Thank you, Lois. Okay, so we're excited today to introduce UPEC, a very innovative solution to try to combat energy poverty across Europe, harnessing university resources and local communities. So, the point of this framework is to allow students to apply their respective skills from multiple disciplines like engineering, social sciences, law, mathematics, and bring valuable knowledge to their local communities. So, students not only offer their practical solutions, but they also gain critical knowledge through hands-on working on energy solutions, energy audits, research, training, community engagement, and other materials that bring them closer to the local communities. Okay, so we have spread it out, our KPIs across several areas. The most important ones is that we aim for energy decentralization, student involvement, economic empowerment, scalability, and replicability. Primarily, what we aim to see is measurable reduction to energy costs to low-income households, increased energy literacy to everyone at the local community, not just the low-income households, and sustainable shift towards a renewable energy at a local level. So to track progress, we have set these 3 specific KPIs. So firstly, we aim to reduce the average energy cost at minimum 15 to maximum 25%. Secondly, we expect fully student participation with at least 90% of the students gaining university or volunteering credits, and the most of them and the same amount of number completing successfully the program throughout its duration. And finally, we aim by the first year of this program to engage at least with 3 local communities, and we are targeting for a 70% opt-in for the local communities at each designated area. Okay, and this brings us to our methodology, which is spread out to 4 key phases. And our aim is to engage progressively with the local communities and implement these different innovative energy solutions. So during phase 1, it's a foundational phase which is focusing on mainly local authorities to engage with the communities and local partners, AGOs, universities, and other beneficiary stakeholders and target groups that should be identified. And then this leads us to phase number 2, which is responsible for the training of students and other stakeholders, equipping them with the appropriate skills and Yeah, equipping them with the knowledge and skills needed to address both technical and social aspects throughout the program in order to address each aspects of the energy poverty. And phase number 3, it's in order to identify energy solutions tailored to each community needs, because obviously not all of them have reached the same level, and secure public or private fundings in a European level. So, by collaborating with households and conducting in-depth environmental assessments and energy audits, we aim to bridge the gap between the assessments and actions by securing the necessary resources to launch targeted energy-efficient solutions to each community. So this brings us to our last phase, which is the ongoing community management, because what we want to do is not just begin on an initial stage, but support them throughout their existence. And once all the previous solutions that we described to you are in place, a dedicated energy coordinator who will be selected by the local authority in partnership with student volunteers. They will try to find and help, they will try to provide ongoing support to help the residents to adopt these practices and in energy conservation, fostering resilience, energy community protection. So, our resources are, like I said before, they vary according to the community and to each different phase and needs of each community. So for outreach and partnerships, we need funding for community coordinators and materials. For training, we require academic experts, energy experts, and support from local NGOs that already exist in the market for years. For the energy assessment we need specialized equipment and technical knowledge through sonar panels, mentors, sensors, while the ongoing management will depend on a steady budget that we have to secure in order to support personnel and periodic updates. So, what we honestly believe is, as you can see, we literally embody our project. We believe it's a very fast-forward thinking and a scalable idea that all of us would definitely opt for during our studies. It leverages the strength of academia, government, local communities, and we strongly believe that it addresses immediate energy needs while creating a sustainable model for energy poverty reduction across Europe for the following years. So, by reducing costs, promoting renewable energy, and enhancing community resilience, this framework empowers both the students involved and the local communities they serve. So, thank you very much.
Let's move to the questions. I don't see any question. This is weird.
We try to fix the slide. Let's see if. Okay.
First of all, thank you very much for your great presentation. I think, especially the introduction, kind of recalling the structural nature of energy poverty, and I think it's a solution that covers lots of different great points. My question would be maybe not directly linked to the proposal itself, but you talked about the structural nature of energy poverty, and I think I would just be interested in hearing your view on the structural solutions, and what as a team, what's your view on that to go to the root causes?
Thanks for your question. So I guess we have a lot of views on this as a group, which we discussed, but the main issue we see is that a lot of interventions now are top-down. So after the energy crisis, some countries would give economic support, cut a bit on the bill, give energy credits, and this helps only, instantaneously. It doesn't create a solution over the long term. So we want to have a bottom-up approach, which creates something that can be self-sustainable. Initially, it will probably take work to establish this solution in the diagram, but eventually we'd hope that it becomes embedded in the community, and then it can help current problems with energy poverty, but also problems that may arise in the future when, for instance, there's not gas prices that's the issue. It's storage, it's flexibility, it's very adaptable.
You have another question?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation, and I really love the idea. I'm curious a little bit about the implementation, if you have some more insight on that, specifically So you were saying, I believe, that it might be part of like the students might receive like course credits for it or like volunteering credits. My question about that is just generally what does that look like, but also more specifically, like how long would they be with the community? Are they matched in a specific way that they are maybe already well known? Also, do we lose information or connection if it's like a short period of time? If you keep switching the students, is that difficult for the community? So that's kind of like what I would like to hear more about.
Yeah, so it's a really good point. The main idea here is that we are presenting just a framework. So we well know that like in Europe we cannot have a single solution for a common problem because each country has its own strategies, has its own policies and everything. So we cannot have a single solution. So what we have is a framework that are gonna then needs to be tailored to the specific country and the specific situation. So for the students, our idea initially, what Speros was saying, is that the connection, which is the unique point of our proposal with the universities, can be easily done with just credits. So the students that already have a background, a technical background, can have other training, basic training on energy poverty, what it is, how can we solve it, and then have something more specific on the country, and then they are actually going on the field to help the community. Then it all depends on the funding also. So if you have low funding, you can just do credits, which are free, and it's going to be like kind of volunteering, traineeship, internship, whatever. If you have a lot of funding, you can just also give a salary to the students, and it can be a paid internship, which we all know that it's better. But it also depends on the funding. Yeah.
Thank you for your.
I would just add to that something because it was a big diagram, so we didn't see all the details, but it's also in the text. What ensures also the continuity between the different students would be also a paid coordinator, because here it's a really multiple actor solution, and so we thought there is a need to have salaried people, so employed people that do the coordination throughout the whole implementation. So I think that answers your questions also.
Thanks for the answer. We still have time for the last question.
I think I brought this up the last time when we had the work cafe, but have you guys had any sort of ethical considerations in terms of like risk analysis when you approach people in vulnerable sort of circumstances in social housing, council houses? The UK, for example, is a big sort of case study in this at the moment. I'm not sure if considered in the presentation.
Yeah, obviously there will be appropriate training to the students and the local partners to know what are the specific sensitivities of each designated area, know how to approach it, because obviously going to a vulnerable house and asking them directly that, hey, we have the help, we are the white saviors, it doesn't sound right. So, yeah, appropriate training will take place by local partners that they already exist and have experience of that sector.
Sorry, yeah, and we also want to focus. We also want to partner a lot with municipalities and social workers. Thanks for the presentation. We move to the next group. No, I will change it to a...
Well, hello everyone. So I'm Costa from Group 5, and together with Peter today we will be presenting our work. We work together with my wonderful colleagues Florentina, Paul, Shimon and Ahmed. So yeah, I think I got your attention a little bit with the title, but let's start with a little bit of an interaction. I want you to raise your hand if you come from a city, so don't live, but come from a city that has less than 1 million people. Okay, less than 500 million, keep it. Less than less than 200,000? Okay, I was hoping for more, but this is for you guys. This is for you. You're our target group in a way. Right. And to add to that, do you think that small cities have problems with financials and financing projects, any type, doesn't have to be energy related? Yes. I mean, raise your hand, come on, I need to see it, not everybody. Oh, I was hoping for a little bit more, but okay, we can work with that. We can work with that as well. So, as I said, what is the challenge first? So, I think we all know Europe aims to be climate neutral by 2050. However, we would say and argue and have some facts and references that small and medium cities face budget constraints and struggle to secure external financing. One good example is, if you remember, the lady from Budapest municipality was talking that even a huge city like Budapest struggles to have finances for the energy transition. It was less than 20 or 10%, if I am not wrong. Thus, large investments are needed, not only for the energy transition, but in general, but our focus is, of course, energy transition. So, the goal would be to have enough for the energy transition projects to be financed because they're struggling to attract necessary fundings. So how do we do that? This is a very, very interesting question, I would say. Well, our solution is called Cluster Hub. Very shortly, the idea is to group together, to cluster the cities together. They don't have to be geographically clustering, but I don't want to go into the details too much. Why do we think this is a good idea? So first, as an investor, we think that it will help with the risk reduction. So that would make it more attractive. And if you're able to give like a more bigger project, it will be also more attractive. So it will attract more finances and will improve the situation in the city for investing in renewable projects. And more about the detail and the technical side, I would invite my colleague Pita.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think now you're curious what actually stands behind this. So bear with me. We start from left to right. So the input, our assumption is that cities more or less know what kind of energy projects they need because it's their responsibility. So what we can say, even if they don't have the knowledge and capabilities, which is the case for some small cities, there's a lot of external knowledge. We heard that also with Energia Club. Like there are organizations out there that can help. So that part of the solution is fixed. So that's where our model comes in. Basically what we do in our hub, we have a ML model that is clustering cities. It's matching the cities. And it's also then creating portfolios out of that. So portfolios out of the individual projects. Why portfolios? Because then, as Costa already mentioned, it's reducing the risk. And also on a portfolio basis, an investor can then say, okay, I invest in this hub portfolio or invest in this hub portfolio or on that one. How do they decide? Based on a risk score, because that is, we aggregate the different projects within the portfolio that then forms the risk score, and that is a decision criteria for the investors. And then, in the end, we hope that this will lead to the implementation of the projects that will help the small and medium-sized cities to actually achieve the energy transition. Oh no, we can actually stay here. So the question is, okay, I talked about investors, but yeah, who will actually invest in that? The answer to that is it's open to everyone. But we focus on the private sector because, for example, energy financiers can come in, also companies that want to invest. But it can also be a very local company, like a local supermarket, and then can put money into the region that want to revive their own small cities, because there is like a sense of community, especially in smaller cities. So people really care about, okay, what happens, and they don't want people to leave the cities and go to big cities, but they want to stay together, and they really want to enhance and keep this sense of community. And additionally, it is also just reducing risk for investors, because if you don't invest in a single project, but you actually invest in an entire portfolio, of course, the bundling reduces the risk. And then the next step is, okay, we know who will invest. So what is the benefit for the city? The benefit for the city is that we can actually get the projects that are, for example, not attractive enough to get finance as of now, for example, retrofitting. that can be bundled because it's bundled in the portfolio. They can also get the money because, as you see here, basically once we have the portfolio, the money is distributed automatically to the different projects. So you just invest in a portfolio, money goes to the projects, and therefore it doesn't matter if there are some less attractive projects in it. You still can implement them, and that is enabling an energy transition and not just mushrooming solar all over the world, because it's, in the moment, it seems quite a nice business case. So then the question is, what are the next steps? And for us, I think we have to start with identifying the landscape, then of course developing the model. That will be done in cooperation with small and medium-sized cities, because I mean all models are wrong, some are useful, but the more input, the more collaboration you have, the better it actually is. So we go from there, and then we have to start with a pilot, for example, with one cluster, and then of course see what do we learn, how can we improve the model again, and then how do we scale our solution. So, to leave you with the final words, just a small summary, but in the end we can say, yes, we can. We can make small cities great again. So we're open for your questions.
Thank you so much. We already have year one.
Thank you for the presentation. So if I understand correctly, when you invest in a cluster, all of the projects in the cluster receive the investment. Is that investment equally distributed? And do you think that it will, for example, if it's a very specific local technology in a local community is going to be developed, will there be enough money if all the money is distributed across all the communities?
So basically the idea is that we are clustering different cities, which of course have different projects, different sizes. So of course each project has its own financial requirements, and the idea is that this cluster hub attracts the financial, like the capital, but then that is distributed according to the financial needs of each city or each project.
Yeah, and to add to that, it is stage investment. So once you achieve a milestone, then you get further investment, because otherwise we run the risk that the small cities just take all the cash and run with it. So then really we want to incentivize the progress in the projects, and also you see with the different clusters, okay, if one cluster is not delivering, then of course the investment does not go to that anymore.
Thanks for the answer. We have another one here.
Hi, thank you for the presentation and a very interesting idea. Just a question first to clarify. So these type of projects, like what type of projects? Is it just energy generation or is it different things?
Anything correlated to sustainability and energy transition. So it can be photovoltaics installation, like you said, power generation, but stuff that are also maybe not that much like retrofitting, which they do not have that fast return on investment. They take a bit longer and are not that attractive. So anything that's sustainability related, we would like to involve it and to have in this cluster to be part of the financing. But we are well aware that some of the projects are not as attractive from financial point of view, let's say. So that's why we are clustering them. We don't want to have anything left behind. We don't want to have only photovoltaics because they are now the most important thing, kind of most attractive, or only wind. So we want to have a more holistic approach and to have everything involved and all of the projects to be realized at the end.
Great, thanks. Sorry, just a quick follow-up. So like traditional renewable energy, or sorry, any energy investment have, like you calculate the net present value based on some sort of money you get from like a power purchase agreement, a feed-in tariff, etc. How will you provide comfort to investors that there is sort of a tangible way of getting their money back, basically, so they can put into their models and calculate a net present value, for instance?
I think there is actually nothing we have to do because it's already done by the cities. So in the first place, we have a quality check on what comes in as a roadmap for what do we need to transition as a hub. And then that is already, like if you say, okay, that does not meet the quality, then we can say, hey, do you want to consult someone? Do you want to take external advice to see, okay, that the projects that are coming in are as solid as possible. And of course, there will be some bad sheep, but in the end, we want to have this quality check to see everything comes in is of a decent quality, and then in the end, we see how that pays out.
Great, thanks.
We still have one more.
Thank you very much for your presentation, for explaining in detail the process. I think my question is kind of linked to the current conversation, which is really about the return on investment, and specifically, do you believe that actually most of the sustainability things that need to be done in cities right now have a return on investment? I'm thinking, you know, greening cities, cycling paths. Yes. In your mind, how much of the impactful sustainability things that can be done in cities actually have a return on investment that can be monetized, basically?
I think it's a good question, and I think the answer is, of course, not all of them. But the ones that can, we should include them in the cluster. And again, it's just a help for the cities. So it's not everything they're doing is financed by this, because they still have budgets. But their budgets are so constrained, so they can not finance it on their own. But from an investor perspective, yes, you see, okay, what is my return on investment? But also you care about developing that region. You care about this cluster, and you care about, maybe if you're a local company, you really care about, hey, I want to have a cheaper energy. So it's maybe there's also some benefits that are not really monetary, but you care about, so you still put investment in. And by bundling, even if you have some that don't give you a return, you still have some high performance. So that's balanced out over the portfolio.
Yeah, and one thing that helps the return of investment is, of course, if you drive down the cost, for example, for production, and by clustering, you can achieve the economies of scale. So this will also help the return of investment by keeping the same revenue.
And to add one more thing, which is a bit out of the scope, for such projects as you proposed, maybe if you look at the more holistic approach, you'll get maybe decreased healthcare expenses. So it depends on the boundaries of the system and how holistic we want to approach. But I would reiterate on the financial side as what Peter said to his answer.
Thanks so much for the presentation. We are moving to the last, but not least, group.
Can I just do a bit? Yeah.
Hello. Just before we start, I would like to apologize for the voice. Hopefully you can still hear me. But I would like to assure you that I've learned my lesson that actions have consequences. We are from Group 6, and we'll be presenting our project on something called the Urban Green Credit System, taking a bottoms-up approach to energy-efficient urban planning. What's the challenge? I don't need to reiterate this. We've heard a lot of this throughout this week, and even today. In cities today, we're focusing on just energy usage because we're attacking energy efficiency. We can see the split on the first diagram to your left on the energy consumption of buildings, public buildings, transportation, and residential and commercial sort of areas. And the one thing I want to highlight from that image is the one common thread in those three sort of components are people. The people using those buildings, the people doing transportation, the people living in those, residential and commercial areas. The middle one, the last diagram to the right, is where our approach to this challenge comes in. So most of what we've heard today and most of what happens today is the government takes an initiative, put some regulation in place, or some nice companies thinking out of the box, like Lime, cycle bike, electric scooters, to put something in place, and that's good, but while they have higher responsibility and a perceived higher impact, that's not always the case, because at the end of the day, adoption lies with people. the residents. And so we are taking the bottoms-up approach, giving responsibility and power to the people to drive these actions we all want to see happen in cities, because we believe that when we see the data, the insights from what people are doing, that would give us an idea of what the right initiatives government should be putting in place, what the right infrastructure government should be putting in place, and companies should be putting in place as well. And just in terms of the state of the art, the first diagram to the bottom left of that matrix, which by the way shows increasing responsibility and adoption to impact. When it's just government, some examples we've seen of just government initiatives, people are not responsible, the adoption may be quite low. When governments and companies come together, we might see increased adoption, but again, people don't have the responsibility, they are not driving it, and our approach puts people at the top right corner of that matrix. One thing I would just like to emphasize, and thanks to the person who suggested this to me, is this image, desire path. So you can see the design, government initiatives, companies trying to do the good thing, but then the user experience, the actual adoption could be different. So the objective we have with this initiative is across 3 broad scopes. We want to incentivize the actions of people that are trying to make cities more energy efficient, starting from them and their personal actions, how they live their life, and hopefully that translates to the wider city. And overall, that should hopefully reduce, greenhouse gas emissions footprints of them individually and the cities, and again, what we all want in the world to support climate goals. Our target group, rather than looking at any specific demographic within a city, is the kinds of cities we want to start with. And we define broadly 4 scopes. So in terms of population, we want to target large-sized cities and medium-sized cities, 1 of each. So that would be 2 large-sized, 2 medium-sized. And we want to look at some characteristics of those cities. So for example, how well or not well adopted is public and transport and cycling initiatives. So we want a city that is already well adopted in, and a large city where it's not already adopted in. And likewise for electricity demand growth and electricity waste, a good case scenario, a bad case scenario. And the specific needs that we think our target group would need would for this scheme to be very accessible. So we need to think about tailoring the solution to the different cities. We want real-time insights, because there's this assumption for us to have the ideas, to have the answers. I empathize with the question that was thrown to those who presented on greening commuting. It's a valid question, I get where he's coming from, but we don't have the answers. Callum's question to which one of the other groups' initiatives they think would have the most impact, we don't have the answers. All we need to do is launch, iterate, learn, and then implement further. And so the solution comprises of 2 things. One is the system itself, the incentive system, and the idea is to build an incentive system. What sort of actions do we want people to take, or the options they have, and then what incentives do we think will drive them? We don't want to make an assumption on what we think those incentives should be. And then the second one is the digital platform itself, an app, a website, whatever, that helps us to enable, delivering that incentive system. And just in terms of how it works, so you have the app in the middle or the system in the middle. We get funding from multiple sources that we would talk about later. And then what the people who are providing the funding get is the data and insights to then put infrastructures and things in place that helps improve energy efficiency. And then in terms of the actual people who have the power, they give us, their behaviors, the actions they are taking, we get that insight, and then they get the incentives. What's the expected impact we hope we could achieve? We think, residents' sustainable actions that they are leading, they are driving, would then help future urban planning to help combat energy inefficiency. Someone had some problems with behavioral change, but we completely agree with that group that it's possible, but we don't want to assume how that would go. We want to iterate, learn what people are doing, and then build on that. Hopefully, we want to reduce residential and corporate energy waste, reduce emissions, and improve the quality of life, which is the most important thing.
Thank you, Promise. We'll just move on to the success metrics. Basically, what we'll be covering is the objectives and key results, or otherwise called the OKRs, and the key performance indicators. So For the objectives and key results, or OKRs, there's two main points, which are increasing energy efficiency and more sustainable transportations. So this is the actions that we want to take, and through the bullet points, as you can see, is how we're going to achieve them, which is reduce relative residential energy consumption, reduce relative organizational and industrial energy consumption, and increased clean energy generated. So this includes tracking energy in such a way that energy consumption before and after each green action will be benchmarked, and the reductions achieved clearly will show the impact of these efforts. And then we have the key performance indicators, or KPIs, which will provide insights into usage patterns, such as active users, so either daily or monthly, signups, referrals, and credit redemptions, because as you guys know, this is the Urban Earn project, and there will be credits given. There will be beyond measuring engagement, because this data will also reveal what are the barriers for this specific community. For example, if there's low data of bike traveling, that means that that community might have gaps in infrastructure, and this promotes the need for more bike lanes, for example. And this automatic feedback loop lets stakeholders and address their real-world needs informed by the applications data. So by the applications data, which is supported by user-driven or urban improvements. So the goal of this is that by focusing on the OKRs and the KPIs, the application provides a comprehensive view on its impact, translating data into actionable insights for both user satisfaction and citywide environmental planning. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide, which is the implementation plan. So the Urban Green Credit System project will be implemented through a digital platform, which will be accessible to every user and stakeholder through an open website and mobile app channel, as I mentioned. The first fully developed iteration of the platform is expected to be deployed within the first year from the project start date, but the platform will be implemented through different stages with the following, through milestones with different stages following estimated milestones timelines. So that means with a 4-month contingency period. So as you can see, from month 1 to month 3, we have the detailed project planning and incentive scheme mapping, and this will incentivize organizations, community, residents, educational institutions, and etc. And then we have month 4, which comes the digital platform and the UX design, which Promise mentioned earlier. This will be more like the remapping of the customer or user journey through design thinking and working with various stakeholders. In the month 5, we have the prototype deployment, which with basic functionalities, so for the platform usage, data collection, analytics that we can further use, as I mentioned with the biking example, notifications, engagements, and the points that will be received or the incentives in the system. From month 6 to month 7, you can see that we have gone into user testing. Which will be the prototype to be deployed by 5,000 users maximum, and this will include general A/B testing. And then we will not stop. There's, as you can see, the MVP launch, but there will always be feedback which will be incorporated into the application. And then for the resources needed, as you can see, we've put venture capital, governmental agencies, human resources, and non-governmental organizations, which will be crucial to the implementation of our project. So this was about the resources needed. This is the amazing team members that have helped create this amazing project. So this was it. Thank you so much.
I'll leave I don't know if there is questions. We already have 1 year.
Thank you for the presentation. So my question is, obviously you're using venture capital to set up your system, but at some point you will be selling data to organizations and they will pay you back money. So my question is, is that money enough to fund projects? Yeah.
Great thinking. We did not say that. Do not put words in our mouth. We didn't say we'll be selling our data to the organizations, to the VCs giving us, but I totally appreciate that. That's one way we think we can raise funds. We think this could be sort of floated as a public-private partnership project. And where the public comes in is we want to leverage what the governments of these cities have in place in terms of data protection, in terms of not getting more data than we need to implement and see the impact we want to. So we'll be very rigorous in terms of data, but in terms of making money from this through selling data, we did not infer that, but I do agree that's a potential.
I don't know if there is any more questions.
Yes, we're going to sell data, of course. It's going to be aggregated, so GDPR compliant, and we're going to make a lot of money. That will run the system, yes.
I don't know if it's because we are getting to the end of the session that there are no more questions and people just want to leave the room. I hope that's not the case.
Maybe it was so good, like they get it, right? Exactly. We're all on the same page.
You have no question?
No. So I think...
I mean, one thing I would just say is I think one thing that stood out to me in all the presentations today is how linked they all are. So all the actions different groups are doing sort of ties in together. We taking the people approach, people taking, different initiatives, some going through government legislation. So really, you all should give yourselves a round of applause. Let's go. Well done.
Okay, well, I think we can keep these slides. And, well, another round of applause for you. Congratulations. I think you all delivered great presentations and great proposals. So we are really looking forward to the final document. And yeah, thank you very much for your work and for your presence here. I will leave the floor to Margarita.
I don't have a lot to add because I think Matteo deserves also the floor because he was coordinating the program team, and a lot have been done, and I hope he's proud of all the work that his team and you delivered. So thank you very much. I hope all of you share your proposals and yes, join AEN and AF to continue this path. Thank you very much. Noemi, do you want to add something? I think.
You can.
We're done. We're finished, right? Done. Oh, I go down. I was a bad participant. I didn't listen. Can you repeat your question? Margarita. Yes, we're closing, right? Closing, right? So, yes, I was saying goodbye to a lovely participant. That's why, because we're closing. Everybody, we would really appreciate if you would take a little time before you leave to fill it a couple of sheets that we're putting out. It really helps us analyze everything that you have experienced and how we can make next year's IF 2025 even greater, because yes, we just strive to achieve. So they will be up on the windows, and I just want to thank everybody for being so engaging and for all the smiles that I've seen a couple of past days. It has been wonderful, and I think it's safe to say that the people that you have met, I don't think they're going to be staying strangers in your lives. I think that, yeah, you managed to make connections that I really hope will last. And thank you for participating.